The Talk Shows family is Nomsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. So, with me today, I'm with Amanda Murray and Grant Morrell. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Good. I'm looking forward to this topic. I think it'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So, the topic today is God didn't call you to suffer, finding strength to live an abusive relationship. So, this topic is for anyone who has ever mistaken endurance for love or believing that pain was part of their divine purpose. So, God never intended for you to live in fear, control, or emotional bondage or physical abuse. You were created to thrive in peace, dignity, and freedom. So, guys, I chose this topic based on one of the girls. She was telling me her story. So I said, okay, I am going to create a topic so you can watch the video. She's going through abuse in a abusive relationship, and she's finding hard to move forward and find love again. She doesn't know what to do. So at least you guys, so when you give advice, so you know where to go. I know, Amanda, you have had that similar situation, so you can um, give advice and how your situation has been and how you're able to find that breakthrough. Over to you guys. What do you think about the topic?
Amanda.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that there's strength in leaving any abusive relationship. And so if you are strong enough to leave, then like kudos to you because so many people stay because they're like, oh, it's not that bad, or they don't realize the like gaslighting that's going on and the disrespect and the emotional abuse that's probably going on that they don't really realize. And even when I was going through what I went through, um, I had we were going to counseling, and one of the counselors was like, why are you with him? And like, because you'd see the counselor like together and then separate. And so I like was like, what do you mean? And like, because there was no like, not, there was only one occasion of like physical abuse that I was like, I didn't realize what emotional abuse was at the time. I had no idea what that was and what that looked like because I'd never been taught what emotional abuse was. I always thought abuse was just more physical abuse. And this was like, we're talking over 15 years ago now. So it's a bit been a bit. But I think sometimes too, when we're in it, we don't really realize how bad it is until we get out of it. Or until we start to surround ourselves with healthier relationships and people who have healthy relationships and healthy relationships with themselves. Because I think that's the most important part is to have a healthy relationship with yourself. And when you are in an abusive relationship, one of the things that I always struggled with, I was like, I'm smart, like I'm pretty, like how did I end up in this? Like it was like mind-boggling to me. Um, and some people are very, very good at chameleoning themselves into being what you want them to be. And so that's what I learned more about what narcissism is and how narcissism can, like, especially with overt narcissists, they put on this persona and chameleon themselves into being exactly what you've always been looking for because they listen to what you're looking for. And then when you're in the like infatuation stage, everything's wonderful. And then you end up in the devaluation stage and it's like, what happened to that person that I fell in love with? They like don't exist. And the reality is they don't exist at all. They were just pretending to be something that they're not. And so that's kind of like a big wake up call. And that was really um strange space to be in. And I've like helped other people who have been through similar situations, and they're always like mind boggled at how the person that they were in love with didn't actually exist. It was just somebody pretending to be somebody else. Grant, what do you think about this topic?
Thanks. Thanks, Amanda. Yeah. Big topic. Hits a lot of people. and you hit on a few key
Narcissism.
points, and you hit what's that?
I think she's good.
And you hit on hit on a few key points there. That it's difficult. It's difficult for people to make that big decision because when you've been with someone longer than a short space of time, you've invested some time, energy, emotion, and part of psychologically, there's a couple of things going on. We don't want to admit that it's gone wrong. We've invested our time, so it's kind of, if I put a bit more in, maybe it'll come right. Because we don't want to think, oh, that's been wasted. So that's what's going on. Also, there's feelings of like, is it my fault? Is it guilt? Is it something I've done? Were they always like that? Why me? Even though you may not strongly believe it's your fault, there's still a nagging doubt sometimes. Is it my fault? Have I done something wrong? What could it be? And therefore, the other thing is, it's failed. I've got a failure on my shoulders. Some people suffer with that. Yeah, not on my watch. Things don't fail. I'll make it. I'll make it right. I'll make it. And all this has got a gut, which is pulling on this way. Then really, perhaps the best thing to do is to go that way. Sure, if there's a problem and you can sort it out, way, way better sort it out than just scrap the whole thing. But if it's a true, and I emphasize this, a true toxic relationship, not someone's just had a bad day at work, like we may all have, a true, like I say, is a history of something going on and it is toxic, it's manipulative, it's disrespectful, what is going on, then yeah, I mean, it sounds like you did the right thing, Amanda. You went and got counselling to see if it could be sorted out. If it's if you've been misdiagnosed, it's not toxic, it's just a misunderstanding. That goes on everywhere in life. If it's something like that, that's great. If it's come to a point that this is truly toxic and he has no ability or commitment from the other person to want to change, then it's time to make a decision. And it is a serious decision. But one of the things, yeah, I mean, when it comes to decisions, we've all had to make tough decisions. And I'm going to say, I was watching someone was coaching the other day who made a really tough decision very publicly. And I really felt for them. This was in the last couple of days. I was looking at it was a really felt for them. It's tough, 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 tough thing to do. And I admire them enormously. What I realise is when you walk away from a tough decision, you make that tough decision, walk away, rarely, rarely do you leave completely empty-handed. What I mean by that, I'm not talking about financial, I'm talking about spiritual, mentally, in your own self-worth. You normally walk away quite good. And when you do walk away, often you've released yourself and you feel, oh, boy, that feels better. I can tell you when I've made some very tough decisions and walked away from this certain situations, normally within minutes, I felt better. Within minutes. It's almost like turning the switch. I can't describe how quick it is. And I don't think I've ever looked back and thought I've made the wrong decision. No, not once. Tough to make the decision, anguish making the decision. Yeah, a lot of that I suffer with. But once it's done, it's done. It's just, for me, it's the same way as I buy a pair of trousers, buy a pair of pants. If you see me go shopping, I spend quite a lot of time for a guy to buy clothes and things, right? But when I do it, they never go back. I'm not one of those, oh, I don't think I like them. I would have slightly wrong. No, I've tried them on. I've looked at them from different angles. I felt that I've made that decision in the shop. So by the time that money's crossed the counter, that decision's made and they're keepers. They are keepers and that's it. And I'm like that with my decisions. I don't necessarily make them really quickly, but when I make them, they're solid. They're done. And that's just me. But a toxic relationship, the impact it can have in your life, God forbid if there's other people involved, children, it can be dreadful. And if it can't be worked out by the routes you've gone down, Amanda, I think, yeah, absolutely it's the right thing to do. Um, and it never seems like that at the time, I'm sure, right? Yeah. Nolsa, what are your what's your take on all of this? I mean, it's your subject. What do you think of it? You, Nolsa?
Okay, for me, if somebody is going through emotional and physical abuse, like Amanda said, she said that she didn't know what emotional abuse. She wasn't aware of she was going through emotional abuse. But when she went for counseling, that's when that awareness came to light that actually I'm going through emotional abuse. So I think it's important for every, because sometimes people think it's only women that go through emotional abusive relationship, physically and emotionally. Men do go through it as well. There are women out there who are very abusive, so you have to be aware. And also, I always say to my pastor when we're doing Bible study, like, please do not tell people that when they're going through abuse, that God wants them to be stay in a marriage. Abuse is abuse, get out. So that's why, because in some churches, they tell you about God, how holy God is. But for me, I've gone through God. God does not like any soul being gone through abuse. So for me, I know that where a soul is tortured, God is not in it. So whatever Amanda, when she did that, made that decision, for me, I don't know. Have you written a book, Amanda?
Yeah, I've written a few books.
Yeah. So yeah.
Mostly children's books. I haven't written one on empowering your life after divorce and separation, which is one that I want to write. I just haven't written it yet, or one on like surviving narcissistic abuse. But those are ones that I just haven't tackled yet, but they're definitely on my radar of ones that I would like to write. I think what Grant was saying about like make sure that you never second guess yourself is really important, and by doing the things like going to counseling. But I also think it's really important to like start educating yourself on some of the tactics that are actually emotional abuse. So something like gaslighting would be emotional abuse, blame shifting, projection, minimizing your feelings. Love bombing is a form of abuse, giving the silent treatment or stonewalling, playing the victim, guilt tripping, um, where they isolate or triangulate, any sort of smear campaigns, hovering over you and like following you. um, Financial abuse is another one. And then the obvious, which is the threats and intimidation. But all of those other ones, you sometimes don't even know they're happening because they're so good at at hiding that abuse. And if you haven't been educated in them, you don't know what it is. You don't know what love bombing is until you've experienced it or one of your friends has experienced it. And it's like mind blowing to experience it, but also to even like notice when your friends get into relationships and you're like, when somebody's like, oh, I'm so in love after like 3 weeks, or like you're like they're like making plans that are like years in advance. That's always my like, if it's like if it's only been like a 3 weeks and they're making like move-in plans or like big long plans of how they're going to build their life together. That's always, I know there are some that it works out for, and that's great, but most of the time that's some sort of love bombing that's going on. And so I'm very cautious if I have a friend that's going through something where it just feels like a fairy tale right at the beginning, because the fairy tales at the beginning are not necessarily reality. And I think that it takes a long time to really get to know people, to get to know yourself, to know what it is that you truly want, to not get wrapped up in somebody else so that you lose yourself in the relationship. And I think that's something that's really hard for people, is to realize when they're losing themselves in a relationship. And so often people will just like shift who they are to make the relationship work. And I don't think that's something that's healthy at all. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, context. Context is everything, isn't it? It's yeah. When you look at the whole shift of it, where you go and the journey you go through. I wanted to ask you. I mean, I have never been through that per se. I've been through some bad relationships, but truthfully, I wouldn't say they were toxic. They were just bad. It was certainly, but they had the certain needs and stuff, but they wasn't toxic. So I've certainly met toxic people, and I know some toxic people now, not in romantic relationships, but in some sort of business relationships, which I'm not involved with. But there are some toxic people for sure. Um, but I really, if I could, I wanted to explore and get your guys' view on the journey that someone goes through from when you're first in a relationship, when it's all going great, it all seems great. Yeah, the love bombings happen, all that's great. As you say, if they are manipulated, and I'm going to say this carefully because my honest truth is, the term narcissist has become a bit of a term. And I've said it before. I've seen people with their partners had a bad day at work and suddenly they're a narcissist. Like, no, no, they're not. Come on. They just got out of bed the wrong side. Yeah, as we've all done. It's not right, but that's very different to being a narcissist. So it's a bit of a buzzword. People jump on it. Most of them do not understand what it is or what it is not. There's different levels of narcissism as well. There's different levels of it. So it's not just one, it's not on or off. And it can be subtle, it can be extreme. Some narcissists know they're doing it and really enjoy it. Some people are narcissists, have no idea they're doing it. They don't. I think there's a mid-level narcissist. Doesn't really know they're doing it, but they are it. And can be quite effective, if that's the right word, at doing it. So, but I want to go real back to, real narcissism. If somebody is a narcissist, if you've ever been a victim of that, what is the journey? Yeah, when someone first starts, it's all great. Oh my God, I found a person of my dreams. We do this. There's a holiday snaps. Everything's great. When does it start to go wrong? And exploring the journey from, oh, just had a bit of a bad day to, oh my God, gotta leave. This is absolutely toxic. It's never going to change. It's taken over my life. My life has been hijacked. I need to get away. What's the journey, do you think, Amanda?
Well, I know like that it's different for everybody, and I do agree with you that the narcissism is definitely a buzzword. And I always, whenever people are like, oh, they're such a narcissist, I'm like, no, no, they're not. Everybody has narcissistic traits. You have narcissistic traits. I have narcissistic traits. We all are like on that spectrum of like empath to narcissist, and we, even the most empathic people have narcissistic traits too. And so when we look at true narcissism, like you were saying, there's like a cycle, right? And it's really hard to even know that you're in it, because there's that like infatuation stage, and then devaluation stage, and then discarding stage, and then they'll circle back to you over and over and over again, where they try to come back to the same people even over and over and over again. I can't even tell you how many times I was asked out for coffee after I had already got divorced, and was like, I'm never coming for coffee with you ever again. If you need something to talk to me, it should be in an email about our daughter. That is it. I never want to be in the same space as you ever again. um, Unless it has to do with my daughter and her, what's best in her best interests. And so it really is this like almost fairy tale. And for me, and I know anybody that I've met who's been in, they almost mirror exactly what it is that you've always been looking for. So that in the beginning, you're like, wow, like this is why I haven't met this or been in love before. It's just like this like um chemistry and attraction and wanting to be together, and you're like kind of like, whoa, like you're moving really fast for me. And even if they are trying to move really fast and you try to push the brakes on, they'll find ways to convince you that it's you're the one that I've always been looking for. Right? And so if you've never experienced that before, that's kind of the first, and the first time you're like, oh, like maybe they're right, maybe they just know and I don't. Because I was very much the like, I don't think, I just got out of a relationship, I don't think it's healthy to get really right back into one. But they were just completely like infatuated and convinced me against my own intuition that our relationship and that we were just meant to be together, right? In the very beginning. And they would hike with me and ski with me, and we'd go on all these trips, and it was just like, and on social media, it looked like we were this perfect couple. We were in the newspaper for our beautiful house that we bought, like all of the things that people look at on social media, and they're like, wow, their life's so wonderful. And then the reality of it is very different. So on social media, it looks like you have this like perfect life with the perfect white picket fence. But then the moment that door shuts, it's like not a safe place at all or a healthy place for you emotionally. And it starts really slow so that you almost think that you're crazy when you're really struggling, and they'll convince you that you're crazy even on something like really logical. And so for my like best example of this was we were shopping for golf clubs because he decided he was going to start golfing with work. And then because he was golfing, I needed to start golfing. We just had a baby. And so
Oh,
it's like, I don't really need golf clubs. And he was like losing his mind at me for like, I'll just borrow some or I'll get some off a marketplace or something rather than buying brand new ones because we didn't need to spend the money on buying brand new ones right now. Like it didn't make sense to me and be on something that I wasn't going to do a whole bunch. And anytime I start something new, I always buy it on marketplace until I know that I really want to do it. And then I'll go and buy an expensiver version of it, right?
like that strategy. I like that.
Yeah. So like when I first learned to snowboard and I was like 19, I bought like a used snowboard and used boots. And then when I was like, okay, I really love this, then I went and bought expensive ones, right? And same with anything. I bought cross country skis last year off a marketplace because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not. I'm gonna spend $75 on these cheap skis off a marketplace. If I like it, great, I'll buy new ones and I'll sell these. And if I don't like it, I only wasted $75. So that's like the logic in my head. But he was like losing his mind at me because I wouldn't buy myself new, like they were like $1,000. And I was like, I've never golfed in my life, essentially. Like this doesn't make sense to me. Like I'll just buy some cheap ones off a marketplace. And then if I like it and I'm going all the time, then I'll buy more new ones. And it was like a gigantic like screaming match in the car, and I was bawling, and I was like, why, what logic do I need to buy these $1,000 golf clubs? And it's just like, and it comes on so fast that you almost don't even know what hit you, because to any logical person, that's a logical reason to not want to buy $1,000 golf clubs. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should have just bought the $1,000 golf clubs and I
No,
golf once a year. I'm being sarcastic.
Interesting.
So yeah, those were some of the sort of like the prime example of just like how insane the fights would be. And I just was like floored. And those would happen constantly, and you never knew when they were going to happen. It could have been a fight over what's I'm cooking for dinner, or like what I wore to work that day if I didn't dress the way that he wanted me to dress, type of thing. It was crazy.
Interesting. So really, we looked at like first of all, it's the ideal relationship. First of all, it looks like you're in the ideal relationship, white picket fence syndrome, right? Everything's great on the outside world, like everyone's looking in. They've got the perfect relationship. I wish our relationship was like that. Wow, look at those guys. Look at them go. They're great. Look fantastic on the outside, and even on the inside, it looks good. Then there's that slight when it goes wrong. So it's that recognition, isn't it? It's point. Point two is the recognition that something's not right. And how do you realize that? I'm just trying to think. When something's wrong, it's not again what I call bad day syndrome, or we had a bit of a row over the weekend. Yeah. How was your weekend? When you get to work, we had a bit of a row at the week. Is it just one of them, or when do you realise no, it's more than that? There's something. What is it you recognise in that recognition syndrome? What do you think, Nom? So what do you think, Amanda? What do you think?
I think now my audience, I'm sure they understand why I always say I don't compare my life with anybody. Like Amanda, when she's describing her relationship, that in the outside world, it looked so perfect. In a way that someone, when they look at it, they're like, I wish I had that kind of a relationship. Me, I don't compare my life with anyone because I know that life may look beautiful, but when they are on the inside, it's not what it seems. And also, Grant, you say how do you recognize? I think
Yeah.
when the pattern keeps repeating itself, and the normality, you know what's normal, and you know in your heart, you know what's not normal. So I think when your heart it feels like this is not normal, this is like beyond when someone, and also someone who is abusive. For me, it was someone that when I was growing up, it was someone that was really, really abusive towards me. What Amanda she's describing is you never know when they are going to flip, when they are going to, it's like a bomb, it's like a gun, they change just like that. For me, I went through someone, but that person was a woman. When she was like, my dad didn't know anything about it. It came to a point where one day I was standing like in the kitchen, and she just picked up the pan and hooked my head. The next thing, I don't know what happened. I woke up a few hours later, I was dead. I died and then come back to life.
What the?
That was, I remember the only time I remember holding my blood, like watching the blood pouring. And the next thing, I was gone. But all I know is I came back to life. But then that day, I remember when people were now telling the story to my dad. That's when I remember what happened. But like Amanda, when she explains, anyone who is abusive, you will never know when they're like, they flip. It's like 1 second they are nice, they are everything. And then the next, when they change, they
I've seen
change.
them.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen that with people. Yeah. Certain hair trigger little things, and they you get maybe a small warning, but it's not much of a warning,
Yeah.
and it's kind of irrevert. It's like a dynamo inside of it. It goes, zoom, 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 zoom. Yeah. It's they wind themselves up almost. There's some trigger they see, and again, yeah. Here's the point that nobody wants to hear. It's not always their fault. I don't mean it's your fault. I mean it's something inside of them going on that they haven't asked for. They don't enjoy it. They don't necessarily invite it. It's something to self-perpetuate, and they are out of control. They can't always. Some people can control it, and some people enjoy it, but a lot of people will have it. They are out of control. They don't have a lot of self-control, and it's an involuntary response, which doesn't help you. Doesn't help you at all. You know, you're the innocent victim in all this. They're also, to some extent, and this is what people don't hear, they're also to some extent a victim of themselves. You know, they can't. We've all heard the expression, "I wish I could get out of my own way." Sometimes, never before has that been a true expression for those people. They can't help themselves. Sometimes there's something going wrong. They don't even recognize it. Sometimes they are. Later they're reflective and they're like, why am I doing that? And then, but and by the way, I'm not talking about myself. If you think I'm not trying to excuse myself, I'm not talking about me. It's people, and I have seen that. I have seen that in bucket loads. What you're saying, not so. And it's horrible. But I know I realise, and it took me a long time to realise this because you get caught up in emotion, thinking how bad they are, and it is. It's not necessarily that they're bad, that their behaviour is bad. Yeah, which is, of course, inexplicably linked to them. But their behaviour, their response is very, very bad. Because we can all get upset with things, annoyed with things, but we have a degree of control and then understanding and thinking in a relationship is a give and take and all these kind of things that we understand. in an ideal world, everybody would like things to be exactly our way, right? We're human, we do. But when you're in a great relationship, that changes. You want it to be our way, right? You actually enjoy doing something for the other person, and that's a wonderful mental shift. But with some of these people, that switch never flips, and it's just stuck in their mode, and everything is hypersensitive. Um, because of their conditioning, often because of maybe their upbringing, their experiences, because we're all the product of our upbringing, our experience, our culture. That's generally what shapes us. And some of us are fortunate to have a decent upbringing, not necessarily talking about a wealthy upbringing, but a good, honest family home with good morals and values, and told off when you're wrong, and encouraged when you're right, and all that kind of thing. But some people don't have that. Some people don't. They come from really bad upbringings, and it does leave a scar. In most cases, it leaves a scar. Um, there are the outliers who have had every excess in life, great education, great upbringing, great morals. They had no trauma. They've had none of this stuff, and they can still be bad. It can happen. They can be the abnormality. They're just bad. They're just bad people. Um, but again, to be a little bit provocative here, because I think about these things a lot when I watch this program. I'm like, my question is, do you know you're doing it? And are you enjoying that? Sometimes it's yes. Sometimes they know they're doing it and know they don't enjoy it. Sometimes they don't know they're doing it and don't have any pleasure out of it. Sometimes they know they're doing it and damn well enjoy it. There's no, it's not a black or white thing. There's different degrees. And again, this is not to excuse, well, it's not to excuse them, but to help us understand what went wrong in their life to make them this way. That the reason I mentioned that, in some cases, this can be a potential route to unraveling the problem. It can, I'm not saying in every case, can be a route to minimizing the problem. Because what I understand with most people, all of us included, when we get most upset is when we feel not understood and appreciated. Right? I have seen glimpses of light in those people when they are appreciated and understood. Now, that's not to accept or applaud their bad behaviour. Not at all. Not at all, because that's bad and it's unacceptable behaviour. You should never reward good behaviour. But to understand their feeling is a chink of light can go in there. From that, once people feel understood, sometimes you can then start winding it down and reduce that behaviour. It's like the more we're trying to explain ourselves, oh, my point is this, but if people go, no, 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 you're wrong, you tend to shout a bit louder to emphasize your point. The more people understand your point, your volume becomes a little bit lower because you don't need to be loud because people have understood it. If you use that analogy with them, sometimes that helps. And I'm emphasizing the word sometimes. Not always. You can argue the point you shouldn't have to. That's another counter argument. I hear that. But it can help to reduce it, make them feel understood, because they are also victims of something that's happened in their life that's made them this way. Because after all, it's pretty clear that their behavior is very unreasonable. That's not normal. Most people don't do it. So something abnormal must have happened to have made them abnormal, right? And again, there are some cases where that hasn't happened and they're just bad people. But and that's if you want to try to fix the problem. Is it always fixable? No. Is it sometimes fixable? Yeah. So there can be that option if people want to consider that. And I emphasize the word consider because you shouldn't have to need to do that, but it is an option perhaps to. And then again, if you try that, don't give that 15 years to fix it. Give a time limit. Let's see if we can fix that within a couple of months. And if it does, that is great. And if there's no major change or any good indication that things are going back on the right track within that time, yeah, then we're back to that decision process again. But I just wanted to add that to give a counter argument to it because, you know, the more I see in my work of analyzing people's behavior, the worst part of this work is that you have different spectacles on, quite literally, different spectacles on, and you see a lot of suffering in the world. You see a lot of people, and you look around and you think no one's a winner here. No one's winning. It's not like they won, you lost. They're, even if they're doing horrible things to you, which is dreadful, absolutely dreadful, and I have the most enormous empathy for anybody going through that situation. They are also not having a great time. They're not walking away thinking, I enjoyed that. Sometimes, yes, but most of them are not. They're walking away in a state of stress, anxiety, raised blood pressure. They're not having a great day either. And that's not your fault. Not for 1 second is it your fault. But something's gone wrong in them, and it's not only affecting them, it's affecting you. And that does become, as you said, a toxic relationship. And I just wanted to say that. So what do you think, Nomsa? What's your thoughts around that? Around the fact that everybody's suffering in these situations?
Yeah, I think when everyone is suffering through the situation, that person that is the main person that you have to end the relationship if the relationship is not normal. When the red flags, sometimes you see people, they go on dates and things like that, they see the red flags from the beginning, and or sometimes they don't, they hide it, sometimes they hide it completely, they're lovely dovely. Is when the relationship later on that nastiness shows up. But if it does show up, guys, don't ever think that it gets better. It doesn't get better. Just get out if you can. I've seen the police on YouTube, when they are giving advice, they say the most difficult thing to deal with someone who is in an abusive relationship is when they report the case, and then they report the case and they come back, they withdraw the case, they go back to that person, and they can't do anything about it. They can't do anything about it, and they just have to hope that that person will change their mind and they just get out of it. But I'm glad that Amanda did get out of the relationship. But this person, Amanda, her question was, she's got out of it business wise. Her business is booming. She's looking after her kids very, very well. Everything is fine. But now it's her. She does not know how to move forward because of that abuse. She doesn't know how to love again, how to open up. So I thought, like, uh, I said to her, we'll just create a topic as we go and talk about it. She was like, Nomsa, I don't know. I have started my business. After that, I've worked on everything. But now, as a woman, I don't know how to. There's fear. She's scared that whoever she meets is going to be the same, or she actually does not know where to begin.
So I think when you're looking at like moving on for like in another intimate relationship, that part is hard because you don't trust yourself, right? And learning to trust yourself again in those scenarios is really important, and it also is a journey. You might meet the next person you date and they're wonderful and you guys end up making it work, or you might go 10 years and not be in a relationship, because I've been single for I think like 12 years now. Like on and off, I've had different relationships throughout, but I haven't met my person. But I think the thing that I think is really important in that is being able to walk now away more easily from relationships that I know are not like solid, right? Because of what I've been through, I will not settle for a like mediocre relationship. I'm really looking for specific things, and I know specifically what it is that I want. And when I go to counseling and I talk to my counselor about what it is that I'm looking for, she says, there's so many people that are in unhealthy relationships and they're just too afraid to leave, and they won't leave because they don't want to be alone. And the power of being comfortable being alone is that you are able to like really know when something is good for you and when something isn't, and you'll feel it in your body. And you'll know it in your intuition that something's just not great for you, or maybe it is for a while and then it isn't. And my last relationship that I had with a really wonderful person just wasn't my person. And I have nothing bad to say about them. It was a great like 2-year relationship, and we had a lot of fun together, but it just wasn't the person that I want to build a life with, even though I think they're really great and we're still friends to this day. If I message him and say like, hey, like we got a kitten, do you and your daughter want to come and meet the kitten? Well, come and meet the kitten, right? We're not like, we don't hate each other. It wasn't a horrible relationship. It was a really positive relationship in lots of ways. But I think sometimes people think because a relationship ended, it has to be negative. I don't think that's the case at
That's
all.
right.
I
Yes.
think sometimes relationships are meant to help you grow. And then some are meant to last a long time, and some are meant to last just a short time. And you can be grateful for the lessons that you learned in each and every relationship. And so I think too, like every relationship that I've had since the really abusive one, I've learned something from. So there were two more abusive ones since my ex-husband, and in both of those, I recognized it really quickly and was able to walk away really quickly. So that shows me that I've grown, right? And then, two, even in this like healthier relationship, I knew within myself that it just wasn't what I was looking for, even though they're a really wonderful person. And so, the unhealed me would have just stayed in that relationship even longer, because I would have been like, well, it's not abusive. They're a nice person. We get along, we're good friends, but it wasn't the what I'm really searching for. And and I believe that what I'm searching for is out there looking for me too. So I think if I spend a whole bunch of time in that relationship that I know isn't going anywhere, then I'm just going to waste 5, 10, 15 years not growing as an individual, right? And so I think that's something that's really important, is learning to grow and be really confident within yourself, so that when you do meet that person, you're really the best version of yourself, right? Because you meet the person that you're meant to meet as they're like a reflection of you, but also like they're growing with you. And so, bye, Nomza. when we're trying to grow, we want to really be set in who we are and know what it is that we're looking for, so that we don't settle for something that's not healthy for us on the
Yeah.
best version of ourselves.
The impact you find if you move on to another relationship, do you feel that's often a clean break and a breath of fresh air, or do you carry battle scars with you that affect the new relationship? And
I
again,
think
I'm not talking
I
about you
think
personally, I'm talking about people in that situation.
I think a little of both, right? Like you have your like battle scars, but you also like you grow from them, right? And I don't think you can ever have like a completely clean break. Like there's always some like little bit of remorse, like even in the healthier relationship that I walked away from. Um, there's some parts of me that I'm like, oh, that part's sad. Like I miss those pieces of that. But at the same time, too, I know they're not my person. So why would I just hold on to those little pieces
Yeah,
when I want different things for myself? Right. And so I think sometimes we like hold on to these little pieces because we feel like there's like a lack in the world. And when we trust that the world is abundant, and the abundance within you is seeking the abundance, in other people too, and in the person that you're really looking for. When you meet that person, you'll know and you'll understand why all the other relationships didn't work up until this point, right? But I also think too that a relationship is either about growing together, and you choose each and every day to choose that person and to grow together and to grow as an individual, or you grow apart and you're no longer aligned, even if they are wonderful people. And I have friends who are divorced, but they're still best friends. And we go like on vacations together as like this weird blended family. And um and they still like have a lot of love for each other, but they're not in love with each other. And I think that's something that people don't realize. Sometimes you can love somebody but not be in love with them.
Absolutely.
And
Love
that
is
if
not
you
enough.
love someone and you just stay because you love them, but you're not totally 100% in love with them anymore, I think that's sometimes where we just stay for the sake of staying, and then you're more of glorified roommates than you are actually like a couple and a partnership.
Mm.
And I'm seeking a real couple and partnership, and I know that within like every aspect of myself, because if I just wanted to be with somebody, I would have stayed in the last relationship that I was in, because we were really great friends, and I do love that person. I think they're a wonderful person. I have lots of love and care and empathy for them. I just am not in love with them. And that's, I think, something that people sometimes just stay because they love the person they have and hold that love for the other person. But I
Yeah,
don't, that's the healthiest version of myself.
yeah, yeah. Can, are there any, going back to the beginning, in fact, before it begins, how can you spot these people?
The narcissists, well, usually at the beginning, it's like they seek people that like they're addicted to attention and admiration, and they also do things where they make you feel like you are the one, right? You you're like, it's almost like a fairy tale, like just like you see in the movies. If I can make it seem like anything, it's like you see in the movies where they just swoop into your life, and things are like this instant connection where they make you feel like you're unique and wonderful, and they put you on this pedestal, and all their other relationships, they've been seeking you, and whether it's like a friend, romantic, whatever. And I think the key is that it moves really fast, and like it's almost like fast and furious and intense, and then all of a sudden it's not. And that would be, I think, when you're like one of the big keys. But it's different with overt narcissists compared to covert narcissists, because overt narcissism would be that like fast and furious and intense. Whereas covert narcissist is that like, poor me, you almost like you're the one that goes in and it's like, oh, I can help you, right? I'll help you with all of these things.
Right.
Overt narcissism and overt narcissism are two very
So
different
covert
beasts.
ones is they, I mean, under the guise of I can help you, I'm your savior kind of thing, right?
No, they come in as they're like they're struggling with something, and they make you feel like you're the only one that can help them.
Right. So they
Yeah.
need your help.
They need your help, like,
They make you feel, and
and there
is
and
it
everything's for me. Whereas overt narcissism is like a grandiose sense of self. I'm so wonderful. Look at me, look at all this stuff I will do for you. Um, like they'll pretend like they're gonna give you the world. Like, I'd have given you the world if you would have just stayed. And it's like, no, you would have just given me stress, anxiety, depression, and a whole lot of debt.
yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, it's hard to see at the start, but once you live through it, it's like, how did I not see it?
Yeah.
And and you see it in other people with other relationships quite quickly too, when they're like, it's just like seems like over the top really, really quick.
So let's look at the key signs then. So what are we looking at, you think, in essence, the key signs of a narcissist?
when we're talking about overt narcissism, it
Well,
would be.
let's break it down. Yeah, if you can. Yeah, that's an overt narcissist.
I think we'll have to do this like a different day because I don't think we have enough
Yeah,
time to
maybe
talk
a different day. Yeah.
about it all. But I definitely would say like that grandiose sense of self, that making you feel like you're the one they've always been searching for, that you're it's like a fairy tale at the very beginning. And there are many different types of narcissism. And like you were saying, Grant, like narcissism is really a buzzword, but when you really break it down, what you have to have like every single thing on the checklist in order to have
Right.
like narcissistic
Yeah.
personality disorder. And when I look at what I experienced, like I can check off every single box. So that's something where you're looking at it, and it's like you can, some people could be like, well, I can check off 5 things on this checklist. Whereas other people can be like, no, I've experienced everything on this checklist. Then 100%, right? And so that could be a topic for another day for sure. Maybe we can talk about it next week,
Yeah, could
is
well
how
be.
to spot a narcissist and how to protect yourself in those situations. And the the thing I would say is like walking away and like no contact if you can, or minimal contact, and keep everything factual, everything recorded, and minimum responses. So if they send you like a gigantic text, you respond with 2 words. Thank you,
And
or or you just don't respond,
is
right?
it so that they can't read more into it and then start another?
Yeah.
Oh, you said
Yeah.
this. You meant
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it'll just like you'll just be in this like anxiety ridden text spiral. Whereas if you can just like, so anytime I respond, it has to be because it's my daughter, right? Otherwise I just wouldn't respond and it would be blocked and I would just never have contact with them ever again. And so with that, when I respond, it will be like, she will be ready on Thursday at this time. That's it. That's all. It doesn't matter what the other message says, how much it's attacking me, how much it's gaslighting or belittling me or name calling me. I don't address any of it. The only thing I address is the main thing, which is something factual that needs to be done. She
Yeah.
will be ready on Friday at this time, or this Friday doesn't work. You'll have to pick a different day.
So
No response to any of
keep
this.
it factual, stay away from emotions. Yeah. And opinion. Keep away from opinions, keep it factual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shortest response possible, because then you're not giving them narcissistic supply. And that's, I think, the cycle that people, because narcissists like either like the grandiose admiration or the fight, because they get supply from both. So if you're fighting with them, you're giving them supply in the same way that you did in the beginning, where you're giving them that admiration. It's just the opposite end of the spectrum. And so if you're responding and reacting to them, then they're getting narcissistic supply the same way that they did in the infatuation stage, only now it's in the devaluation and discard stage, and they get narcissistic supply that same way when you're reacting to them. But if you don't react and you either remove contact completely if you are able to, or you keep the contact as minimal as possible, that's the safest way and the best way for you to deal with it.
Good tips. So good recognition, good understanding of your own emotions, what you're going through as well. And it's normal to feel that. If you're feeling these things, that it is actually, yeah, it's a good sign. Checklist, we'll look at that another day, a checklist for overt and covert narcissism. And then how to make the exit and how to do it and not get embroiled in even more of it. How to
Mhm.
Yeah, like you say, minimalism is a great thing, even no contact or low contact. And if you do, keep it factual and not opinion based so that it doesn't create another reaction. Great,
Yeah.
really, really great points. Well, I hope if anybody's listening out there, this has been helpful to you. If only to say that we understand, we recognize it goes on, we recognize you can be caught in it. The feelings you're feeling are completely normal and natural, and that there are answers. There are answers. There is an exit strategy. Maybe it can be repaired. If so, great. If not, there is an exit strategy. There is ways to do it, to recognize it. Maybe we'll explore that in other shows. Yeah. So that's it. So Everybody, thank you very, very much. Thank you. Take care of yourselves wherever you are, and we'll speak to you very soon. Okay, take care. Amanda, any closing points at all, or?
I think if you are trying to find the strength to leave an abusive relationship, go get some counseling. That would be my best suggestion to you, and do a lot of journaling and record everything.
Great points, great points. And I think my closing comments would be that to listen to that, because I think they are really spot on things. So there is light at the end of the tunnel once you recognize what to do. So everybody, take care, be good to yourselves, and be good to each other.